These are all of the things that I'm thinking about when it comes to adding a landscape in the background and what I think should go into a background, whether or not it's a landscape. These are kind of the key factors. All the examples I will give are landscapes, but you could apply this to anything. The most important thing is always going to be story. That takes primacy. That's number one. That needs to be the focus of the painting, and everything should be based off of that story. So everything needs to be cohesive and logical. Think about where the story would likely take place. If you're telling a story about fishermen, the odds are, it's going to take place somewhere near water, some kind of body of water, a river, a lake, the ocean, whatever it may be. At the very least, it needs to be close to that body of water, because that's logical. It could, of course, be somewhere else. It's possible, but you should consider the story and what makes the most sense according to that. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. If it takes place on water, if you're telling a story where you need to have water in the background, then obviously that should be part of your background. Ophelia, for example, she needs to be in water. She needs to actually be submerged in water if you're really going to be approaching the climax of that story. In The Flaying of Marsyas by Titian, you see that he's hung up by a tree, so you need to have that tree there. Even if the rest of the background is very simple, at the very least we need to have that tree that he's been hung upside down by. So this brings up a point that I want to address, which is usually it's smart to go with an easier route or a less complicated route. Not necessarily easier, but less complicated. You don't want too many things going on in the background. You don't want too many things around your figure that are going to distract or pull away from the figure. You should also do your best to keep storytelling as something that's very cohesive and something close to that main figure. So you shouldn't be using the background as a way to have a full exposition of, the past and the future and, showing all of these different steps and putting everything in there. It should be only the crucial parts. So most of the time when it comes to a background, it's good to think simple. Here's St. Margaret and the Dragon. So you can see, again, this is a pretty simple background. I think Titian did a really good job of this. He would include these landscapes and he would include these elements in the background without allowing it to overtake the main figure or to overtake the story. It's still cohesive and it contributes. It actually improves the story rather than just being something that needs to be there. The dragon, for example, is also pretty, well painted in my opinion. It's kept very simple, which I like. If you go overly detailed, it can quickly become a problem because you'd have to then just put so many details and it would take away the attention when it's something that's, mythical. If you try to make that too specific, you kind of take away some of the magic, you take away some of the myth and you make it too real. And this brings me into the next point, which is the mood. This is actually in many ways more important than getting very detailed and getting very specific about the background, and that is just the overall mood. So when it comes to the story, you need to also consider what kind of mood is this going to give us? What is it going to feel like to be in that space? If you choose an area like this where you have, a lot of harsh marks and roughness, and you have these kind of rocks in the background that look like they're almost overtaking her, and same with the clouds. The clouds are very stormy. All of these things are contributing to the mood. It makes it look like there is actual turmoil going on, and we don't think this is a pleasant experience, obviously, based on her expression, but then, all of those other elements around are also going to contribute to that and make it feel more real. We're going to believe that there's a lot of movement and a lot of things going on, even though he hasn't really exaggerated anything too much. Just having that roughness with the rocks, having those storm clouds, this obscured dragon, that's enough. Along with her body language, that's enough to give us everything we need to know and to really set the stage, to set the mood for the story. So I think that's oftentimes more important really than trying to make something that's really going to blow away the viewer or something that's going to be just amazing. You need to consider how this is going to relate back to that figure. Everything should be complementary to the story and to that main figure. The Polish Rider by Rembrandt. You can see this also ties into something I'm going to bring up later, but you can see the rocks in the background don't seem so ominous here, and the landscape is complementing the mood of the rider in a way, or rather reflecting him. So you see this sort of confidence or this proudness, like the horse that has its leg up and it looks like it's really proud taking a stride. Then you have the rider on top of that. He looks really confident. He's got his hand on his hip. He's standing up with his shoulders. The rock is reflecting the rider as well in a similar way, that it kind of follows the shape of his body, and it stands up almost with the exact same posture. It's as if the rock, has the same posture where it's really putting its shoulders back and standing up straight and tall with confidence, and it kind of gives us the same perspective as we see with the man. So it's not complicated at all. This is a very simple landscape, very simple background, but it does the job very well, and it gives us a really good sense of the mood. This is the last procedure by Odd Nerdrum. So again, this is much more ominous. You have these really dark clouds that are just kind of setting, and there's a little bit of light there in the background, but it looks like it's quickly disappearing. And right in the middle, right in the background, I mean, it's so clear, you have the gallows. So the gallows are down there, and pretty much that his fate is sealed. Again, this kind of reflects the posture of the main figure. You have the gallows in the same exact sort of position as the man. You also have this background that kind of reflects, so you get the same movement here. And it feels a little bit defeated in a way. It feels like a less confident posture compared to the Polish rider. It's more like his shoulders are kind of falling down, and you see the same thing with the gallows. You see the top there is kind of folding over, and it looks a little bit more sad. It looks more ominous all around. This is the poor fisherman, and you see, based off of his posture, his body language, you see his family there in the background, and then you have this really simple background, which color-wise, everything really just contributes here. It's just very bleak. He looks like he is losing hope. He has almost given up. So having this sort of emptiness is another way. This feels much more empty because the space is very empty, and it just seems bleak, and it's a little bit boring compared to the background with Saint Margaret and the Dragon, where you have all these rough movements going on. That feels much more intense, like you're in the middle of turmoil, and there's a lot of anxiety-provoking type movements, whereas this is much more calm, but at the same time, it's more sad in a way. And you see the same sort of thing here with Odd Nerdrum Stranded. So the mother is there with her child, and this is a very barren landscape. There's not really any hope around. If you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments or send it to the group chat. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.